It is perhaps the most famous rivalry in the history of rally. Two automotive giants battling it out across dirt, gravel and snow on some of the most dangerous rally stages of all time. Welcome to Racing Rivals, and this is Lancia versus Audi. Back in the 1970s, Audi had been developing a new type of military vehicle which was four-wheel drive. They noticed how well it coped with the rough terrain and said, hey, you know what, this four-wheel drive stuff is actually pretty good. Let's put it in a car. So that is exactly what they did. Thus, the Audi Quattro was born. Because of the Quattro's four-wheel drive system, Audi thought it would be an ideal candidate for rallying. But there was one small problem. Existing FIA regulations didn't allow four-wheel drive setups to compete in the WRC. So what did Audi do? They asked for the rules to be changed. Enter Group B. From 1982, the Audi Quattro was dominating the field, placing first, second and third across multiple rallies and ultimately taking the championship. Meanwhile, over at Lancia, team boss Cesare Ferrario had a problem. He was running a team manned by Italians and with a budget similar to that of a local football team. That, coupled with the fact that Lancia's main driver Walter Roll didn't actually want to win the championship. Walter only wanted to participate in Monte Carlo, Corsica, Acropolis, New Zealand and SANREMO. So the reality was this: Audi had innovative four-wheel drive, a tried and tested car and a team backed with the might of Volkswagen Group. Meanwhile, over at Lancia, they had a budget of £50 and was told to go racing. The first round of the 1983 World Rally Championship was held in Monte Carlo, and this worried Lancia for one main reason. Due to the conditions of snow and ice, it posed a great challenge to the drivers because of the 037's mid-engined rear-wheel drive layout. So how did Lancia solve this? Well, they went to the local town and bought salt. They did this to lay the salt down on the corners, which would pose a threat to the unforgiving 037. So by the time that the Lancia was at that section of the stage, most of the ice was melted. But the Audi Quattro still had four-wheel drive and world-class drivers, all the makings of a one-sided championship, right?
My tactic was the same like this year. Attack!
On the tarmac, the Audis just could not compete with the ferocious speed of the Lancia. With Walter Roll at the wheel, nothing was going to stop them. The results of the blistering speed of the 037s were unbelievable. The rear-wheel drive 037 had beat the Quattro, taking first and second place. However, their victory was short-lived because the next rally was in Sweden. The snow and ice was just too much for their car to handle. So to solve this problem, Lancia didn't turn up at all. So Audi scored an impressive win in Sweden and repeated that streak again 2 weeks later in sunny Portugal. This continued to Africa and looked like they were on the way to a championship domination. Well, that's all well and good, but the next rally was in France, and more importantly, it was Corsica. Corsica is almost entirely tarmac based with smooth roads and dry conditions. The 037 was now in its element. There was an expectation that Lancia could claw back some championship points here, but just how many was unbelievable. Lancia normally turned up to a rally event with around 2 or 3 cars. Corsica, they turned up with 4. The idea was that if they completed the rally with no errors, the best that the four-wheel drive Quattro could achieve was 5th place. But in the end, they couldn't even achieve that due to mechanical issues. They got nowhere near the podium. This meant that after everything that Audi had achieved, Lancia was back on top of the championship. But would they stay there? Because the next event was the rough terrain of Greece. All the teams expected breakdowns, but surprisingly the majority were Audis. This meant that Lancia won again. The championship continued through the year with both teams in a fierce rivalry. And then came Finland, and Lancia had a bit of a problem. Their rally-winning driver didn't want to race. Why? Well, quite simply because Walter Roll didn't like jumps. And because of this, Audi won. But with only 3 rounds of the championship left, it was logically possible that Lancia could still win the championship in sunny SANREMO. But there was one problem stopping them from winning, and that was SANREMO's main feature: dust. Naturally, dust on the stage makes seeing the road rather tricky, so to counter this, Lancia came up with an ingenious plan. When it came to the time where the O37 was meant to start, it decided not to move. Delaying the start time meant there was more time for the dust further down the stage to settle. And this worked a couple of times, until the rally officials worked out what was going on and put a stop to it. The only way now that Lancia would win here was down to the driving of one man, Walter Roll. With Walter at the wheel, the team managed to score a Lancia 1-2-3 at the finish line, and in doing so, they won the championship. Never again would a two-wheel drive car beat the monstrous four-wheel drive beasts of the Group B era. And today, Lancia still holds that record.